Hey everyone, we're
Hi.
here a little past the midweek. It's a little different this time. We are having an interview episode.
Yeah, so sadly you won't see us together for most of this episode. This is
Yeah.
as much. But yeah, we are doing a special interview episode with two of our good friends who are speedrunners. We're going to be talking all things speedrunning, their speedrunning experience, how they feel about speedrunning overall in the community. I have my good friend Tim, who goes by The Big Cup on speedrunner.com.
And I have my friend Adam, who goes by Zebrafeet, also on speedrun.com.
So yeah, what you're about to see is basically two interviews that we did on separate times, and we're just going to cut it together into a big super interview.
Yeah, so it'll be probably around an hour long or so. So
Yeah.
we'll see. And then we'll see you afterwards.
All right.
Bye.
Well, welcome back. That was a quick second for you, but I'm here with Adam Potter.
Hello, everybody. I'm Adam.
So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name's Adam. I'm still in high school, just kind of hanging out. I like playing tennis. I like playing video games. I am about to go to work, but
So, what game do you speedrun?
I play Cuphead by Studio MDHR.
Nice. That's a really hard game. Isn't it?
It took me a long time to beat the first time. I think I originally played it on my Nintendo Switch, and it took me probably 6 months to beat. And since then, I've bought it on 3 more platforms.
Yeah, I can't get past the second world, so I don't know how you do it.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Greetings from the other side of the table. It's me, Walker. I'm here with my good friend Tim. Tim is a speedrunner who goes by The Big Cup on speedrunner.com, and he is currently ranked 73rd for the 100% speedrun of Celeste Classic.
That's right.
So glad to have you on here.
Yeah, it's really cool to be here. That speedrun was, I think, a year ago now.
Year
I think
ago.
if you check on there, it says like the published
Yeah.
date. It's been a while since I have actually done another run of that. I actually have another run that wasn't recorded because I was just practicing. That actually was better than that. I think it was like 30 seconds faster, and it would have been like 54th or something like that. But it wasn't recording, so.
And another thing, notice this: the camera and the positioning and everything looks very different from the other interview you've been watching in this video. That's because it's a little cramped in the studio right now. We don't have a lot of space. You can't see it, but there's a lot less space right now. So that's why the camera looks a little different. Tim, we're just gonna ask a few questions, have a little bit of a discussion here. And my first question for you is, do you remember the moment when you decided you wanted to learn and get better at speedrunning? Celeste Classic. Like, do you remember that moment when you're like, oh, I really want to actually like speed run Celeste Classic?
Specifically Celeste Classic?
Yes, that game, or just in general. Was there a moment?
Because I can say for Celeste Classic, it was my first playthrough of Celeste, the commercial release. There's an option to play the Pico 8 version, and that was my first experience with Celeste Classic, and I played through it. And well, for one thing, I realized that I play Celeste, the commercial release, on a controller, and with the Pico 8, I'm somehow able to play with keyboard more easily, mainly because there's a lack of grabbing. You cannot grab onto walls and climb up and down. You can only jump off of the walls, so there's less movement that you have to like spider your fingers on the keyboard, so it made it a lot simpler to play on keyboard. And then I kind of ran through it, and it wasn't really that good. I think I was already interested in speedrunning at that time because I have a screenshot of my first ever clear, and it was long. It was a really long, because it was my first run of 100%. And I thought, oh, I looked at the speedrun website just to see how good it was, and I went to 100%, and I scrolled down to like how my time would do. It was not that good.
Yeah.
But I looked at some other runs, and I looked at like, I think it was like 100 or 200, something like that, just to get like if I wanted to be good, this is how I would do. And I think I just said like, or in my head, I was like, that's pretty doable.
Yeah.
And so I started to just like do more quicker runs of 100% and kind of look through. I incorporated both some moves that I found out of like learning some of the rooms, and I used some paths that were made by some runners. There's some things I still have yet to learn. Gosh, that's
Well, I think we could get started with the actual questions.
Perfect.
So, the first question we made was, do you remember the moment when you decided you wanted to learn and get better at speedrunning Cuphead?
Oh man. Oh, you know what? The first time that I decided I wanted to do it was actually at your birthday party, like 3 years ago. We were all hanging out, and I had my Xbox with me, and I threw it on a monitor. And I was like, let's see how long it'll take me to just beat this game. And I thought it was going to take me like 4 hours, because it's a really long, difficult game. I thought it was going to take me 4 hours, and I ended up doing it in under 2 hours the first run.
Wow.
And
I think I remember that.
yeah,
That's
it was
crazy.
like a
I didn't
minute-
know that started it. I thought
Yeah.
you were doing that before.
That was the first night I ever ran it. It was an hour and 53 minutes,
Wow.
and it was that kind of lit the fuse, and I was just like, this is honestly, I could keep going with it.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Oh, can you tell them what place you are on speedrun?
So right now, I believe my highest ranked recorded run is 43 minutes 1 second. I believe I'm 190th place right now, but I have recorded a run or two that's under that, which should put me at about 150, 160th place.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
actually really cool.
It's really fun.
Anyways, next question. What was the hardest part about speedrunning Cuphead? So this gets like more into the actual gameplay of it.
Yeah.
So some of you might not know what he's talking about, which I guess is fine.
Yeah. Wow. So, I mean, I think one of the obvious problems is that it's a really hard game as it is.
Oh, absolutely.
Beating the game in general is pretty tough, but like everything, once you get practice, it becomes easier and easier. I think for me, the harder struggle, especially recently, is getting better at the late game bosses. I've been, because as you speedrun any game, any person that speedruns knows that like you see a lot more of the first parts of the game than you do the last half, because you're there and you keep running the first half because you keep resetting.
Yeah.
So when you get to an upsetting part in like the second world or something, I tend to reset a lot there.
Yeah.
And one thing I could do for me, and something I would also recommend doing for anybody else interested in speedrunning, is do a lot of no reset speedruns, where even if you're not going to get a great time, or even if you're going to keep messing up, just go all the way through beginning to end, no matter what. And you're not going to PB every time, no, but you're going to get a lot more practice on those late game bosses. And that's a problem I've been running into, because I can beat the first world in under like 9 minutes and 30 seconds.
That's, oh my goodness, that's
And
crazy.
yeah, so my best time for Inkwell Isle 1, which is the first world, is 9 minutes and 15 seconds, I think. But I get to the later half of the game, and I'm so much slower, and I'll eventually die sometimes to just bosses that I shouldn't be dying to, because I haven't had enough practice.
Now, can you, if, say you did die to a boss, can you
Hmm.
just, if you're like doing really well, can you just continue speedrunning?
Right now, I can.
Like, is that legal? Like,
Oh yeah, of
Okay.
course. You won't get a great time. I think actually on the current run that I have recorded, which is the 190th place, I think I died once to the train at the end. There were a couple of mistakes there too, like
think I saw it.
in other places in the
I
run.
saw one of those parts because I'll watch you speedrun on Twitch
Yeah.
sometimes. He's on Twitch as well.
Yes.
Can you give them your username?
Yeah, so watch me on Twitch. It's it's technically zebra feet, but it's strange, so I'm gonna spell it out. It's Z and like capital Z and then a 3 and then BRAHFEET.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's all Cuphead art. It should be pretty obvious.
It's pretty cool. You've been doing Elden Ring too recently.
Oh man, so I don't speedrun Elden Ring, but I've
Yeah.
been playing a lot of it. That is a tough game.
I need to try it sometime.
I'm on the last boss right now, and
That's
it
so
is
cool.
it's wild.
Yeah. Anyways,
Do you think the hardest part, or is the hardest part about speedrunning Celeste Classic in your mind?
The thing about it is some stuff is weird. Some mechanics are completely different from commercial Celeste. I'm going to call it commercial Celeste.
That's a good.
And if you are used to that one, you will be completely thrown off guard by it, because some inputs are much more inconsistent, especially the directional keys in order to know which direction you are dashing in. can be, or it takes longer for the game to register which direction you want to dash in the Pico 8 version. So if you were to hold, like, if you wanted to go diagonally up and to the right, you would hold those two buttons and then press the dash button. In the commercial release, it would be pretty quick, pretty, like, responsive.
Because you have that analog stick.
And it could also work on keyboard, too.
Yes.
And the thing about Pico 8 is you hold it. It takes, I don't know exactly, maybe a few frames for it to register. So if you want to go quick and you go too quick and you release because you want to like move right next, if you release that forward key a bit too early, it might register that you only want to dash to the right. And so you have to hold directions more just for longer.
So it's much
slightly
more,
longer.
much more deliberate moves in Celeste Classic, and so it was hard making that jump from the commercial game, being more familiar with that and moving to Classic.
I will say after like stepping away for like a whole year and coming back, because I wanted to come back and see like how I would do, I realized that I fall to that same like thing about the responsiveness.
Yeah.
Because I played a lot more commercial Celeste within that year.
Yeah.
And so I got more familiarized with the snappy controls.
Do you ever feel like you miss out on the fun that people who don't speedrun have with games? Like, do you ever think like, I'm not actually enjoying Celeste Classic as much as I would if I didn't speedrun it?
Yeah, that's mainly in general because of that feeling that you don't get when you first experience a game over again, where you get to like have all these reactions to all like the cool stuff that happens. And when you go back and you're, I guess, speedrunning in this case, you kind of are just like going through the moves and it's kind of just there and you kind of just move on with the cool revelation that like, oh, you get this cool thing. Oh, you just move on and just carry on and you don't get that experience of like, oh, wow, it opened up now. There's like this cool new thing that I get to like mess around with and these like new levels is awesome. And you kind of just fly through it.
Yeah.
Kind of like as if they were always there.
So, do you ever feel like you miss out on the fun that people who don't speedrun have with games? Now that you started.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think the only game that I do speedrun is Cuphead.
It's Cuphead, obviously.
So I get to really enjoy and slow down on other games. I think... I mean, I had the experience of going through Cuphead the first time.
Yeah.
And having that really frustrating experience of like just not being able to beat a boss. And I miss it sometimes. I miss not being great at that game. I think one thing that was really fun though is when they released the DLC for that game. The Delicious Last Course came out probably about a year ago now. And it was so refreshing, like dying to bosses again.
Oh, I'm sure.
It was really refreshing because there's a ton of new stuff. The game plays completely differently in the DLC. So it was really refreshing. And I feel like that's probably also a good thing for a lot of speedrunners. I think I have a friend, his name's also Jags, and he speedruns Jedi Fallen Order.
Oh.
And he, for a long time, for like 2 years or so, had the world record. And
That's crazy.
he was fantastic at it, and he was just kind of getting burnt out. Yeah. And he's like, it's just the same thing over and over again, and at this point, the run's based on luck.
I'm sure.
And then Jedi Survivor came out. And I'm assuming most of y'all know that Survivor's just the sequel.
Yeah.
And he's back in, and he like came back to me. He's like, "This is so much fun! Like, I'm so excited to be back.
That's awesome.
Learning new routes." And he actually the other day got the 100% speedrun world record for it.
Whoa.
And he also still has the first place.
We need him on this episode.
Yeah, he's incredible. Follow him. His name's HDo. He's on YouTube, Twitch. He's incredible.
That's awesome.
He's really fun.
That's really cool. Do you see games in a different way ever since you started speedrunning?
Oh, yeah. I think earlier, before I started speedrunning, I would go into games with the idea, like, I'm going to play the game how it was intended. I'm going to beat these things in this order, maybe explore a little bit. Now that I speedrun, I'm really alert to how, like, certain things in the game could be like used for other places or like abused. I love watching glitches. I love figuring out how they work. I spent a lot of time in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom doing glitches.
I haven't done that in Tears yet, but I did that in Breath of the Wild as well.
Yeah.
They're so much fun.
See, exactly. So like figuring out how game engines work and how to abuse them. one game that I really want to speedrun, I really want to get into Titanfall 2 speedrunning. That campaign, it's a short enough campaign as it is. I think the speedrun right now, the world record, I think it's under like 50 minutes.
Wow. I thought it'd be shorter, honestly.
It is a very cool speedrun. I would love to get into it. I just I always played it on controller on my Xbox, and now that I'm finally moving some things over to PC, I got to learn mouse and keyboard.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So with game
Way now since you've started speedrunning and have done speedrunning.
So I want to say what my one of my first like games I speedran
Yes.
was Portal 2. That was like
Yes.
a game I at least attempted to. I didn't get the full setup. I couldn't get live split working.
Yeah.
Whatever. I tried to do like I guess a casual speedrun, not really recorded.
Yeah.
And it wasn't too. It was like an hour. Like it was like no glitches, hour 30 or something like that. That was like my first ever run with that, and that got me into speedrunning. At first, I watched like videos of like top runners doing like glitches or with glitches or like cooperative speedrun, and that's how I found Celeste, kind of, because it also, like, on Steam you can see how there's like tags.
Yes.
There was, I don't remember what the tag was, but I know platformer was on there, and
Yes.
Celeste platformer, and I guess I saw the potential. I focused. I didn't focus purely on the speedrunning potential of the game. I kind of just saw it, and along with the rest of the game, I thought, ooh, this could be good to try out, you know?
So you kind of see games, like when you're looking at maybe a new game, you kind of see it in like the light of like, oh, this one I can see being a fun speedrunner style game, kind of.
Partially. I don't base my entire
Yeah.
I don't determine if I get this game if I can
No.
speedrun,
But that influences it sometimes.
that's like part of it. Yeah.
And then, like, when you're playing a game, even when you're not speedrunning it, do you ever think, do you find yourself thinking in terms of like, oh, there was a way I could have beaten that level faster, or there's a way I could have gotten to this place sooner, or there's a glitch that could be exploited? Do you ever like see games in that way, even when you're just playing casually?
Yeah, I see that, like, yeah, there were a lot of games. For some reason, it was specifically like puzzle games. I found that like you could solve some solutions to puzzles in a quicker way than the intended solution, or the one that like is generally agreed to be the intended.
Yeah.
That you could solve it quicker, so you could get through the levels faster.
Yeah. With games like Neon White, which is, it was a shooter, first person shooter in which you use cards to either shoot enemies or use it to dash or double jump, that is very centered around speedrunning. The idea of the game is how fast can you beat this level. Do you think that kind of game, do you think that helps the speedrunning community, or do you think that more hurts it and defeats the purpose of having a speedrun community?
I feel like games like Neon White, or I guess Pizza Tower in a way,
Pizza
has
Tower,
that
yeah.
kind of like timed based.
That's very time-based, and it's all about beating it quickly, which is what speedrunning is about.
I feel like those kinds of games can be like an inside look to speedrunning as a whole. People who don't speedrun casual or just play games casually can look into these games and see, oh, this is what can be done. And those games, since those games are built around like speedrunning, they're super manageable and are made in a way that can be easily like understood, as opposed to like the glitches or game breaking stuff that can cut off time in certain games that don't focus on speedrunning. And so they can kind of like dip their toes in like these kind of games, and if they're interested in that kind of things, they can go to other games and see that there's speedruns there.
Yeah.
It's like Neon White, which I actually didn't know what this was until Walker explained it to me.
Yes.
So this is a game completely based on like you have to speedrun all this. That's basically what it's based on. So do you feel like those type of games help the speedrun community grow, or do you think they hurt them?
Oh yeah, I think after playing a lot of games that are already putting you under time pressure, really helped me adjust to the speedrunning world. I think any kind of game, like racing games, are really good because they force you to be quicker, obviously, because you're racing. But there's a lot of other games too that will put you under time pressure, and I think practicing on those is also a really good way to get yourself adjusted, because it can be pretty stressful dealing with multiple things at once, because you got your game, you also have your timer, and you're racing against yourself. And sometimes mid-run, you have to decide if you're going to keep this run or if you don't think you're going to make it, so you have to reset.
So do you think like being under time pressure like influences, like encourages people to start speedrunning games, or do you think it keeps them away?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different video game types of players.
Oh, yeah.
So some people are obviously going to really enjoy the time pressure, the intensity of it. Some people like slower paced games, and I also love those kind of games. But I think it's just always made it so much fun to just get in there and be under that stress, and it makes it easier to like see, oh, I could speedrun this, because any time pressure game, you're already speedrunning.
Yeah.
It's not like you have to do much more on top of that. Anything where you have to do it fast, and you can speedrun not time pressure games, but it's just really cool to see these games that are already encouraging people, and basically the whole game is a speedrun already, because these time pressure games are like, that's their whole concept, is they're like a really good intro to speedrunning.
Yeah. Well, so this is an interesting one. Speedrun.com, which is where basically everybody puts their times on. That's what Adam
That's
puts
what
his
I'm
times
on.
on. Has a history of approving fake runs.
Yeah.
So what strives do you think could be made to counter this?
So one thing that I think has started to work a little bit better recently, and it honestly changes a lot, which is interesting, is each game has their own moderators. So
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought it was just like speedrun.com had their...
It's a really cool thing they do now is you can go in and I'll submit a run. And depending on the game, some moderators are a lot faster than others, depending on how popular it is, how many runs they're getting. You'll send in a run, and that's why I stream on Twitch, is because you need a recording of the video anyways.
And live stream's the best way.
Yeah, and live stream is the easiest way because it doesn't take up space on my computer or anything. So I just send them a link for that. And you send it in, and the moderators will take however much time they need, and they'll analyze the video. They'll watch the whole thing, and a lot of times they'll retime it for you. The higher up your time is, the more likely they are to like pay attention to your time, and the quicker they'll get it through. That's the nice thing about being like top 200, is that
you get yours in.
I get mine in normally in like a day or two.
Yeah, that's awesome. I saw one just got approved today, or it was a day ago for Cuphead.
Yeah,
it's like 20 like milliseconds quicker than the one previous.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I think it's really helpful. And yeah, there are a lot of fake runs out there, and it is pretty easy to fake runs. You can just clip different videos together, and honestly, it would be so easy. And one of the things I've been talking with my friend who I already mentioned, speedruns Jedi Survivor and Fallen Order, and he was having some conversations with their moderators because my friend had, as I said, he had the record for years.
Yeah.
And randomly, a few months ago, like a month before Survivor came out, randomly, some guy in Russia, no one had ever seen him on speedrun.com before, he beat his time by like 10 minutes.
No way.
He lowered it by so much. Like, everyone knew it was fake.
Yeah.
And they looked at it and they couldn't tell what parts of it were spliced or what parts of it was fake. Apparently, he had been saving these glitches that only he had known about, and he had never shared them with the community.
Oh, wow.
So he had ways to cut the runtime in half.
So, like, it was real.
It was real. And they ended up catching a few fake runs from that guy, but some of them were real. Wow. And one thing they do is they'll look at audio. That's a really big giveaway, is if audio feeds ever cut out.
Yeah.
That's a really solid way. Or if video ever jumps or anything, obviously. But audio is a big giveaway. But I think if moderators could take more time, especially on like the better timed runs, if moderators could take their time and just really pay attention to those cues. But it is a hard thing to fight.
Oh, I'm sure.
It'd be pretty easy to just, for me to go in and take any of my best segments. Like, my best time is 43:01. 43 minutes, 1 second, 23 milliseconds. But my sum of best segments, which is just taking all my best times, putting them together in one full run.
Yeah.
It's like 37.
Oh, wow.
So I could be in like top 120 if I with that. So if I just splice those together in a really clean edit just during the loading screens, it'd be really easy to fake a run. And I'm hoping the moderators probably have ways that I don't know about.
I'm sure they do.
Hopefully audio cues and a lot of other things.
So, yeah, maybe like, I don't know, ChatGPT can help out with that thing.
Maybe it could.
I don't know. It would probably say every run's fake, honestly, at this
Yeah.
point.
Speedrun.com does have a history of approving fake runs and doesn't do always the best job of managing its website. What strives do you think could be made to kind of counter this, or what do you have any way you think this can get better?
Well, the thing is that each speedrun category has its own community of like moderators that would review and submit runs, and so it's different between games. The bigger the game, usually the bigger the moderation team, and so the harder it is to submit like a faked run because there's more eyes looking at it. And so smaller games, such as I don't know exactly how much Celeste Classic has right now. Smaller games like that have less of a population of moderators, and so it could be easier for stuff to slip by like that. And some of that's already dealt with how they're uploaded. They can be uploaded via you can make a video on YouTube and submit it there, and at that point anyone who sees it can watch it and review it there in a way and can call out stuff in comments if they want to. Yeah. Or people can be streaming it via either YouTube or Twitch, etc. Yeah. And with that, having a live chat can also increase your credibility in a way, unless you pre-record it or something like that. Which is why chat interaction helps remove that. But I guess I wouldn't necessarily say that a bigger moderation team would always be helpful, because I feel like there could be a bunch of like conflicting viewpoints, and that could lead to more disagreements than like reasonable conclusions. And so maybe I'm not fully sure at the moment, because it's variable, and honestly some of like, especially like the top runs, most seem to be legit. However, I know that there are some cases of like top world record runs being fake.
So you just think maybe just more communication among the community itself, and being able to like basically being able to check each other is probably the best way it can happen.
Yeah, that would be a pretty good, because then you got like the view of the moderators, and then you got the view of like the community over here. So you got like two whole like groups that are supporting, like who would have to like come to an agreement that like this one was real, this one was clearly faked, or And I know this is kind of a weird thing. But this is kind of in in Hypixel, the server in Minecraft, there is a beta feature called the Atlas that is a kind of like a cheater detection software that people with ranks are able to access, and it allows you to go into random, Bed Wars, Sky Wars, or Duels? I forgot the third one. You can go into a random game where someone like reported the game and suspected someone of cheating, and they can go into the game and watch like a replay of the game and can determine if they were cheating or not. And to remove like people to just like spam,
who just cheat and use bots and stuff.
And for people who go into that voting system for purely to just like for like malicious intent can get like banned from the service. So it removes any unreliability from the community.
That's a system that maybe could be implemented in some other, for maybe a similar system maybe for some games that are speedrun that have some trouble with that.
I'm not sure, because
it'd be difficult, because that's more of an online game thing, which is more cheating and faking.
Because that is within Minecraft's territory. But it could be some variation of that could possibly be used, although I'm not entirely sure how. In a way, there's some weirdness with that.
I know that you only deal with really one of these, but which one do you feel is more satisfying, and that is speedrunning a game in a way it was meant to be played, or speedrunning a game using like glitches. So like just a straightforward no glitches, you just play the game as fast as possible as developers intended, which is what you do for the Celeste Classic. I don't think there's any glitch kind of ways to skip levels or anything. Or maybe like the Breath of the Wild any percent speed run, which are just, they use like 10 glitches in 5 minutes to get across the map.
I don't feel opposed to either of them because I think it's insane how people can like figure out this stuff and use it to their advantage, like how that or what was it? How Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach, like the game was so broken that you could beat the game in like 5 minutes.
Yeah,
because of the amount of stuff that people found. Some people just like fell upon it, or some people looked for it. But I prefer the runs without much glitches, without any. So like NMG, usually no major glitches, is a category, I believe, for Hollow Knight, for instance. I think is a category on its own. And then the any percent, just any percent. And I prefer the way that the devs intended, because it would be like figuring out like a way that you haven't thought of before of this like solution, without like breaking the game, kind of like still within the boundaries of the game, but managing to do it as fast as you can. I feel like it would be it feels super cool to just be able to do that, other than like just like go out of bounds and go straight to like the end or whatever.
Yeah.
Which one do you feel is more satisfying? Speedrunning a game in the way that it's meant to be played, or utilizing exploits and glitches to beat it?
That's a really good question. I honestly get to experience both, and I really like that about the Cuphead speedrun. Is that there are some bosses where you can skip half the fight, or you can skip certain like whole phases by pretty big glitches. There's some really fun ones in the third island, but that's the other thing about Cuphead speedruns is a lot of the bosses, there are no glitches for them, so you just have to be better at the game.
So is there like a certain category for glitches, or is there?
There is a no glitches category.
Okay.
That's 90% of people who speedrun Cuphead are speedrunning the latest version
1.1
on 1.1 plus, or no glitches. Mostly on PC. You'll see a few console, but the difference between those two doesn't really affect much.
Do you use controller or keyboard and mouse?
So I recently I switched over to using. I built a PC recently.
Yeah.
So I've always played on controller. So I still play with an Xbox controller. I'll switch honestly between a Xbox Elite Series 2 controller. Or just an Xbox Series X controller that I put back buttons on. That's another thing I like to do, is I really like engineering kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I removed the back plate from an Xbox controller and I replaced it with a custom one, and I soldered 4 back buttons into it, so I have programmable buttons.
That's really cool.
It's basically the same thing as an Elite controller, so I'm hoping that doesn't count as cheating. But
I'm sure it doesn't.
I just wire that into my PC.
Yeah.
And the PC also allows me, because I know it's overkill, but I have 3 monitors. So my center monitor is my like gaming monitor, so I'll have Cuphead running on that. My left side, I'll have my speedrun timer taking up half the screen, and I'll have
Half the screen.
and then I'll have OBS running, streaming to Twitch on the other side. And then on my far right, I'll just do Twitch pop-out chat. So I just have my whole chat running on the right side. And I could totally manage doing that in 2 monitors.
That's what I do.
But I just really like having
The 3. If I had like an option to have 3, I would take it. But...
Well, I started out, honestly, when I built my PC, I started out with 2 just like office monitors. They're nothing impressive. It's like 1080p at 60 frames a second.
That's my main monitor, actually. It's like 1080 at 75, and then the side monitor is 1440 at like 144. So it's like really different.
Yeah, so I have 2 1080p 60 monitors, and then my center one is a 1440p 175 hertz. So
Interesting. Yeah. When you feel satisfied with your time, what is, if any, the next game you'll speedrun?
Oh wow. I'm guessing I won't be satisfied with my time for a while. because I'm trying. My end goal is to get like top 50.
Top 50.
That'd be awesome.
Wow.
That'd be crazy. It'd be
That
really
would.
hard to do.
I'm sure.
But it'd be a lot of fun.
That would be really cool.
Top 100 is also a goal. Next game. I mean, we kind of touched on it earlier. Titanfall 2 would be a really fun one. The mechanics, the physics engine in that game is crazy.
Yeah.
It's a very heavily modified version of the Source engine, which is diving into really complicated
know
stuff. Source engine is the same thing I believe Portal 2 runs on.
Yeah, that's Valve created it.
Yeah.
The Half-Life, Portal.
It's a very heavily
2.
modified version of the Source engine.
I did not know that.
A lot of the tricks you see in other Source engine speedruns, Portal 2, Half-Life, you'll see them come up in Titanfall 2, just different.
That makes sense.
It's really cool. That's why you see a lot of like, again, this is really diving deep, but a lot of like bunny hop mechanics, a lot of wall bouncing and stuff. Same thing Apex runs on. I think Titanfall 2 would be my next go. I'm trying to think what other games I've been getting into a lot recently. I think I'd take a look at Tears of the Kingdom.
That'd be interesting.
My brother has a friend who just got a sub like 1 hour run in Tears of the Kingdom, which is pretty fun.
I still haven't beaten the game.
Me either. I'm just doing a lot of side quests.
Yeah, me too. I haven't played it in like 2 months now.
Yeah,
so.
it's been a while.
Yeah, but Tears of the Kingdom is
Yeah,
it's so cool.
I would love
so
to get
cool.
into, because I've always loved messing around with Breath of the Wild glitches.
Yeah.
Like it's really fun.
Yeah. I feel like there's not nearly as many glitches. At least we haven't
There
discovered
aren't,
them
yeah.
yet. But I don't know if I made this point on camera before, but they basically brought the glitches as features into Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
If you think about it, like you can like, oh man, I'm trying to think of the examples I used.
Yeah.
But like attaching bombs to shields to
Yeah.
fly, like that's kind of like
They have
wind bombing.
wind bombs
somewhat.
are similar.
There's a lot of similar mechanics.
Yeah, and the thing you got to remember is Tears of the Kingdom came out what, like 2-3 months ago.
Back in May.
Okay, so three-ish months ago. By this time after Breath of the Wild, we still had like no glitches.
That is true.
So I'm assuming they'll find some pretty
I'm
fun
sure,
stuff.
I'm
And even,
Especially if it's on the same engine.
oh yeah, and with Breath of the Wild, they found glitches like a year or two after release that they never patched.
I think was it BTB? I think it was BTB. That wasn't discovered until not Bullet Time Bounce. No,
Item smuggling was a while.
that was a while. But the most recent one was what's the one where you can just like fly through the air?
That's item smuggling.
Is it?
Yeah, the one where you wiggle the joystick over and
Yeah.
over again. You just like fly across the map. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Item
don't
smuggling.
remember what it's called.
It's
called
just
something else.
it's a very advanced form of menu overload. Item smuggling is the general idea. You can do a lot of stuff with it.
Blissing.
Yes,
BLSS.
that's it.
That's what it's called. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Tim. We got one last question for you. Is there any game that you plan to maybe conquer onto the speedrunning boards next? If you feel like if you keep with Classic, or do you think when you're done with Classic, is there any other game you might start posting times for soon?
Well, I would like to. I may try and get to either close to my personal best in Classic, or try and like get better if possible.
Try to beat it.
And then I want to get into commercial Celeste running.
Okay.
Maybe not 100% because that is much
Yes.
longer. And I like the shorter kind of thing.
Yeah.
So like any percent for other games will probably be more manageable than a 3-minute 100%.
Yeah.
And I have been doing runs of individual levels in commercial Celeste, just off camera, just to try and get like a combined run. And I believe like combined with all my best times in each chapter, I think it comes down to like sub-hour. So, which I think is pretty good so far. I know the best is like under like less than half of that time. But I'm not trying to be like number one.
Yeah.
I want to get up there.
Yeah, of
And
course.
so I'm willing to learn stuff that I've not yet gotten to figure out. There's a lot of
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff that I've
A lot
yet
of
to
stuff.
figure
Yes.
out.
Celeste. Well, that was Tim, everybody. The Big Cup, 73rd on Celeste Classic. Thank you so much for doing this. This was a really great interview.
Thank you for having me here. It was awesome. Of
course.
It was pretty cool.
And we will see y'all later.
What advice would you give to someone who wants to start speedrunning?
Oh man.
As our final question.
Um,
We kind of touched on this a little bit.
I'd just say just play your game over and over again. Like, obviously pick a game you love. That's my first thing. Pick a game that you love, because you're gonna be playing it a lot. And I fell in love with Cuphead before I ever thought about speedrunning it. I got the game and I love the art style. I love the music. I love playing the game. It gave me a really fun challenge. And I think part of me wanting to speedrun that game was falling in love with the game first.
Yeah.
So definitely pick a good game that you love. Second, I'd say I wouldn't bring a timer in for a while. I would definitely just play the game a lot. Just practice. And I honestly, the first while I was running, I was never recording times because I would time them on my iPhone timer, like playing it on my Xbox. And I didn't have I didn't have a load remover. I didn't have anything. So that first 2-hour run I did without loads, or like with loads included and everything. So like just play the game, and then after a while, just start like timing to get an idea of how long it's taking you. Start to do a couple of full runs. One of the biggest things, again, I already mentioned, is do no reset runs. That is huge. I need to do a lot more of them. I've been working on it. If anybody's in my chat, tell me to do no resets, because I get frustrated and I like to reset a lot. But yeah, I think that's a good thing. And just honestly, it's a very competitive area. Like these people that are running it, this is what they do. And I wouldn't definitely don't give up, because like I'm like still 190th place in the world. And I'm pretty fast.
Yeah.
But there's always room for improvement, but also I wouldn't get too down on yourself, because like it's pretty impressive. Even if like no matter how far you are, the fact that you're speedrunning a game
and doing it too.
Yeah. It takes some serious talent.
Oh yeah.
So, and I even like I'm just casually playing games. Anybody can speedrun.
Yeah.
Anybody can speedrun any game. Because there's a speedrun for everything. And even if you don't think you can compete in like the any percent, like the quickest one that everyone does, there's a ton of subcategories. And find what you love doing. If you love playing a game without the glitches, or you don't think you can handle the glitches, go to a glitchless subcategory.
Yeah.
And you can mess around with different games. Find what you love speedrunning, because I know everyone has more than just one game that they love. So if you try to speedrun one game and you're like, this isn't working out, totally just go to a different game.
Yeah.
There's a ton of really great runs out there. Another thing I would say is study. Watch a lot of speedrun guides. Watch a lot of runs of other people, of the top players.
The top players, they spend hours just trying to save mere seconds.
Oh, yeah. And I wouldn't even be worried. One thing I did when I started speedrunning is I got caught up in like, I want to do a lot of timed runs. I want to like just keep doing this, keep resetting till I get a good time. But what I should have been doing and what I'm doing now is I'll do a run. I'll figure out what bosses I'm really struggling with, and I'll just spend a lot of time just beating that boss over and over and over again. Work on sections. Take it section by section, because it's a lot more daunting of a task to take a whole game, like just straight up. It's a lot easier if you practice by chunks and slowly get better and better.
I'm sure. In some games, they have like online straight to where you need help.
Oh yeah, exactly.
So
And
I know Undertale has that for like Sans boss fight.
Yeah. I think another big thing is just watch the pros. I think the guy's currently ranked number 2 or 3 in the world. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he does a really good beginner speedrunning tutorial for Cuphead. And that's what got me in. It's like a 3-hour long video. And he goes through every single boss, every single stage, and he gives some really, really good advice for everything.
Have you watched the entire thing?
I have, multiple times. I've seen that whole video maybe 4 times. Wow. And I translated all of his advice, everything he says. I have it written down in notes on my phone. So if anybody wants it, hit me up, because I have a ton of just notes and everything I've collected from watching a lot of people and a lot of descriptions. And there's still some glitches that I can't even do that would boost my time a lot. So a big thing is just watch a lot of videos And that's one thing that I do a lot is I'll have a video of a glitch going on my left monitor, and I'll study it, and then I'll attempt that same boss on my main monitor, and just keep watching that and listening to other people that know more than you, because there's always going to be someone that knows more than you until you're number one. So
Even still, there's still more to know.
oh yeah, of course. And there's always going to be things that shake up the game. Like my friend was speedrunning Fallen Order for 3 years before that Russian guy came in.
Yeah, I know.
And
That sucks.
well, the upsetting thing was that he wasn't sharing the glitches with the community even after he posted his runs.
Oh, wow.
So he had these runs that no one could beat reasonably, and he'd submit the runs and he wouldn't let others compete. And that kind of takes away the fun. Speedrunning, you're competing with other people, but you want it to be a fair fight.
Yeah, it's a community.
It is a community, because at the end of the day, everyone in the Cuphead community, we're there because we love Cuphead. We're there because that's the game we fell in love with, and that's the game we wanted to speedrun. So I think in that case, I think it wasn't really cool with that guy.
Yeah.
Just because I think another thing is speedrunning, you're against yourself. You're going to be happiest when you're beating your own time. And yeah, of course, the end goal is to get higher and higher on the ranks and be number one. But I get more enjoyment out of beating my last time and getting better than I would going up a few places.
I'm sure.
That's my main focus. And honestly, that's what's going to make you better.
Yeah.
Is not worrying too much about other people. It's a race against yourself. And it's a lot of fun. It's a big hump to get over. There's a lot of stuff. It took me like days to set up like my auto split and speedrun timer and stuff. But once you get into it, it's pretty easy. You just go and you practice and you play your game and you do what you enjoy doing. So
yeah,
I have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, it's really cool. Oh man, I couldn't imagine. I think I started speedrunning, I don't remember what. Maybe it was like Superliminal or maybe Portal 2. I don't know.
Those are both really good games.
Yeah, Portal 2 is my favorite game of all time.
That's awesome.
So I don't know. But I don't think I could do it.
It's a lot.
It is a lot.
It takes a lot of energy and a lot of patience.
Oh yeah.
I've had some of the most frustrating upsets, like
a lot of time
late game. Oh yeah.
A lot of time.
A lot of time.
Well, yeah, I think that was a good interview.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Where can they find you again?
So on Twitch for sure, Z3BRAHFEET. I'm pretty sure my YouTube is also the same. There's nothing on my YouTube yet.
There's a link in his Twitch as well.
Yes, there's a link. If you find my Twitch, my YouTube link's in there. I'm going to start moving, every time I stream, I'm going to start moving all my Twitch stuff to YouTube.
Yeah. You could just
find me there.
Both. If you do both, it'll just automatically.
Yeah. Find me on Instagram. I think I'm just Adam J. Potter. Reach out. I'm all over the place. Especially if you like Cuphead. I love to talk Cuphead. Yeah. It's a fun time.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
We'll see y'all in the outro.
All right. Thanks for watching that interview. Yeah. I hope you liked it.
Thank you for sticking around for that long. Be sure to comment if you want to see us interview more people in the future. We'd be happy to.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys, and we will see you later.
Bye.
Bye.